Hey guys, so I did a couple of interviews, man. I spoke to my friend Nelson Chimbonde. I hope I'm saying his surname right, or just my guy Nelson. Hope I didn't butcher his surname. He's farming here in Brugwater. He's setting up his sheep breeding business. I'm sure you guys saw that video. And then I spoke to my other friend, Mashua Korupanda, who's doing red Brahmans in Epukiro. And then on top, before that, I spoke to Miss Agnes Limbo in Zambezi region. She's doing organic farming, which is Liambezi Foods. The common scenario all three of these farmers have is they all have difficulties they're busy experiencing in the various parts of Namibia they're farming in. Like my dear friend Nelson, he couldn't get land. He's leasing from somebody, and the person he's leasing from was also not very sure if he should allow him to lease there. That's the first one. My dear friend Mashiwa, they are farming in the Pukiro area. He says that the area they were farming in, there was the poisonous plant. So they would lose, cows would die, they would eat that poisonous plant, they would die, and probably can lose close to, out of 30 cows, you can probably lose close to 10, depending how severe this poisonous plant is. Then you have Agnes Limbo, who spoke about how she's struggling with water. Water is a problem where she is, and it's quite expensive also. So you sit down and you look at these individuals. Firstly, I must applaud them for not allowing their circumstances to really put their hearts towards agriculture, and the fact that they're busy soldiering on even though the situation is bad. What one can sit down and say is, really farmers are sometimes, most farmers or all farmers do find themselves that they're on their own. If we are serious on wanting to have Namibia being able to produce its own food, it means we must change how we do things in the country. What do I mean about that? Concerning things like resettlement farms, there are many stories, many boogeyman stories. I can say the Tokolosi story, of farms where given to people, or people were put there and resettled and were given a 99-year lease on that farm to actually be productive individuals and contribute productively to the food security and also the economy of the country, the GDP. And these farms have been destroyed. That's the sad reality. Sometimes it's due to the fact that people do apply for the farms, people are given the farms, you trust the person, the people destroy them. Unfortunate. I've always called that, back then it was Ministry of Lands, but now it's become Ministry of Agriculture, that they should create a body within the Ministry of Agriculture that goes to these farms, that goes and looks at what you've done on this farm. If I say that, look man, I have gotten this farm in 2010, I have set up an orchard, I have built a chicken business, I have built a pig business, and I have livestock, I have small and large livestock. They should have a body that goes and observes, not just for a day, but probably spends a good week on your farm just observing what you have done and writing down to say, this person has done this. Because I know you do enter into an agreement of government saying that this farm is, you're only allowed to use it, you don't own it, it belongs to government, and if anything happens, government is able to expel you off the land. Which I think the government must start doing, my opinion, my humble opinion. Because if we take a lady like May Agnes Limbo, for example, we give her 800 hectares, a commercial farm, proper water infrastructure, everything is there. I believe she will be able to take that farm and make gold out of it. If you give my friend like Nelson, with his sheep farming, the Meat Masters, you put him on a good farm, Grootfontein, wherever, or even here in the Khomas Rockveld, here in the rocky areas. You put him on that farm, 1,000 hectares fenced off, or even 700 to 800 hectares. I think he'll be able to do something out of that. You take a guy like Mr. Mashiwa, you give him and his dad probably 2,000 hectares. They'll be able to do something, or even just 1,000 hectares. They'll be able to do something out of that. It is identifying the men and women that show the abilities to be able to do something. The mistake we do in agriculture is that sometimes land is given to people that that want to, but might not have that vavavoom, that last push, that spur, that fire in them to actually get it up and running. Because, like I've said, I know many people who have been given farms or who bought farms. Get the farm in 2022, 2023, 2024. 2024, the person is out of the business. You see the farm is up for sale because he or she can't. So it requires a special being to do this. Special being. A person who probably has the capabilities and the skills. And I think the Ministry of Lands or the Ministry of Lands and Agriculture needs to probably become much more strict when they give a person a resettlement farm, or spend a week on that person's farm, just observing what it does. Come and do business reports, take videos, take pictures, prove that what this person is telling us is what's actually happening on the ground. Because I know in Namibia, as in many African countries, land is a political score point. You know, you don't want to give land to people, and if the people mess up, you kick them off the land. That's voters you are losing, and you don't want to do that. But I think when it comes to agric land, like I've said, farms, economic important blocks, we can't just put any Jack and Jill on a farm and just leave them be and say, you got a farm, show us what you can do. But in also saying that, myself having been in the sector for 11 years, but I'm no more in it anymore, I do understand that it costs money. I was on a space where we were having a discussion about youth involvement in agriculture and how to start farming without any money. It's possible, because many of us, let's say your father or your grandfather had a farm or had a village. He gave you one cow. That one cow, probably by the time you are 21 or 20 or 30 years old and people haven't been stealing, or your animals haven't been dying from natural causes, or people haven't been slaughtering your animals behind your back, those animals would be at a good substantial number. At least by having some heifers, you can talk to, you have some fields you want to plow, you don't have a tractor, you also don't want to do oxen. You can talk to a farmer who probably has a tractor and say, look man, I'll give you one heifer if you can plow for me a hectare, or give you some male castrated calves for you to plant for me a hectare. And you can barter in that way. You can do that bartering system amongst the farmers, and you can get things done. But in sad reality is, it's very difficult to try and farm on a commercial level without money. Because when you're doing it commercial, if you're doing it small scale, it's easy. You can just set up your garden and go from there. But if you're doing it large scale now, you're trying to have 800 hectares of plow land. That requires capital. And in many occasions, a young person such as myself, we do not have that money. We do not have that financial muscle in the background. Yes, they'll tell us apply for loans from banks. Some banks will give you a loan. Some banks will probably be a bit difficult. They'll have their terms and conditions. And it makes it a bit difficult to access these loans. So, farming without money, can it happen? Yes. Agnes Limbo, one example. She's doing it in the village. Not, maybe she doesn't have millions, but probably just has a little money that she gets from a pension. She's able to use that to establish a business. But money is a needed thing. Unfortunately, in agriculture, just like every business, money is needed. I tell farmers that maybe we must stop looking at our farming thing as just farming. It's a business. And every business needs a capital resource, whether it's getting it through crowdfunding, whatever. So, if I was put in charge today of the resettlement policies in Namibia, I would do this. We'd reduce it down to 30 years or 20 years with a clause of the farmer being able to buy the farm from us. Because by the farmer being able to buy the farm from us, he or she can be able to approach an agricultural bank, commercial bank, whichever bank, and get a loan and then put and borrow against his asset, which is his farm. Because by keeping the farm 99 years in our hands as government, we are preventing that farmer from being able to go to other places and access loans. Because, I can't just give you 1 million. Maybe 1 million will help you for that time, but probably what if you need another million? Now, I would introduce that to say after 30 years you can buy, or there's a clause for you to buy the farm now. Just show us that you're being productive. That's the first thing that I would do. Second part that I would try to help improve the agricultural sector in this country is by subsidizing farmers, man. Agri-equipment is expensive. Spades, hoes, large machinery, tractors, planters and reapers and discs. These things are expensive. They don't come cheap. We have to be able to subsidize, or government has to come on board and be able to help farmers at the point so these farmers can be able to do various forms of farming. Because I know we always sit there and we say, but why is it that our people only plant white maize? The reason why they probably plant white maize and not try to plant carrots, tomatoes, and other bespoke foods is because these maize might require might be cheaper to buy, might be cheaper also to plant, and you can sell them at a good price compared to other things. Because I was talking to another farmer who was telling me that he did some peanuts, and he was struggling to get them sold here locally because we don't have a peanut butter making factory, which is quite sad. We need to get that. So he has to plant them here, send it to South Africa to get it turned into food. So those are some of the things that I would look at, man. Looking at utilizing of land properly, looking at supporting farmers where we can. I'm sure we have extension officers, probably bringing those back, getting farmers mentors, making sure that farmers can get funding. But if farmer needs extra funding, maybe from a commercial bank, give them a letter of intent or a guarantee saying that we will take on this loan and we will pay him or her back, because we need these people to produce food. If we are serious to become the bread basket, or to be able to produce enough food for our country and probably to produce surplus to export, farmers need the helping hand. You can't have a lady like May Agnes who's doing a good organic farming is complaining of water. That shouldn't happen. You can't have a farmer like Mr. Mashua who's breeding Brahman cattle complaining about a poisonous plant. We need to figure out how we can combat this poisonous plant. If there's a herbicide, we need to we need to get the planes to fly over the farms in that area and just pour that herbicide out to kill that poisonous plant. That needs to be done. So we are able just to protect our agriculture and see how we can move it forward. So those are my 2 cents on a serious note here on Dunawe Ngombe. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a good Sunday. Bye for now.